I have a second channel, Cube Comp MTDX.
Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be upgrading yet two more systems to the AMD Ryzen 3 2200G based platform. Except this time it's going to be a little bit different. The motherboard is going to be a revised version of what we were previously. It's an ASRock A320M-HDV R4.0. And this motherboard looks a little bit different, and it also has some fixes that were highly needed. So, if you haven't been watching any of these videos before, this is, I forget which one this is, how many I've done so far, but I've done, I think, at least 4 or 5 videos like this, where I do this platform upgrade. So we're doing 2 machines in this video. And I always start out by showing you the motherboard. And I install the RAM and the APUs onto the boards, so the boards are prepped and ready to go. Then I install the drives into the towers and then install the motherboard, all that good stuff. So yeah, the manual looks a little different. Not sure if the driver's CD is the same or not. I'll stick one to the side just in case. You get an I/O shield plate, pack of SATA cables. You get 2 of them actually. One M.2 drive screw, and the new motherboard. So as I mentioned, this motherboard looks different than the previous board, but also it has some pretty nice updates that were needed. And I'm about to point out a really big one that's really been needed. Now, of course, I don't have any of the other machines here with me to show you that had the earlier style board, but the board has different graphics on the actual PCB. Heatsink here is definitely bigger from what I can tell. Now, I can't remember for sure if the previous revision had 2 SATA ports here and 2 over here, but now there's all 4 over here. We have 2 sets of USB 2 ports, so a total of 4 USB 2 ports. We have the COM port, we have the HD audio. It's just showing up here, sorry about that. So we have the 2 USB 2.0 headers, so 4 USB ports there. Have a USB 3.0 header, so I think that's 2 USB 3 ports. COM port, HD audio, and look here. Front panel is on the very front corner of the motherboard now. On the previous revision, it was like somewhere over here, and in at least one case, the front panel header cables simply did not reach, and there were several cases to where they just barely reached over here. So ASRock, great job on this. This was really needed. This really needed to happen. So they relocated the front panel headers to over here in the corner where they should have been to begin with. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to proceed on with the build. I'll start out by installing an APU. Now, excuse me, it is pretty late at night. I've been needing to get this done. This week has been crazy. Stuff going on everywhere. So it looks like AMD has also made some changes here as well. I just now notice this. Yeah, the packaging for the APU is different now. So let me make sure that shows up on here pretty well. So yeah, previously Yeah, I don't remember having this big piece of plastic up top like that. So that comes out. A little booklet. And of course, a little advisory to use a motherboard that's Ryzen Desktop 2000 ready, unless you are willing to, or unless you have another board already from an older generation that you can apply a BIOS update to with a different CPU or whatever. Okay, so there's that. Here's the APU, and we have both stickers this time. Great. We'll see if that's the case for the other one. Let's see if the heatsink fan has changed any. Yeah, it's definitely, things are definitely a little different than last time. Okay, so the fan, I think, is the same as what we've been using. It's just the packaging for the whole thing has been different. Has been changed. It's different than before. So there's your cooling fan. Okay, so first we have to go ahead and take off these retainers because the boxed cooler does not use them. It's like they're essentially there in case you have an older cooler you'd like to attach that uses the clips. That's one thing interesting about AMD is these clips have been in the same spot since like 2004 or whenever the K8 came out. So 2003, 2004, that time period, whenever the AMD K8 platform was released. Athlon 64, socket 754. So if you had an old cooler from back then, a nice aftermarket cooler, it theoretically would fit on one of these boards as well. Get these out of the way. So the back plate remains in place. So we're going to install the APU. Yeah, for those who have been watching these videos before, you pretty much know the drill. It's in my tool bag in the living room. I'm going to open this up. Set that in place. We'll go ahead and apply our heatsink fan. We're going to utilize the stock double compound that it comes with. And these machines aren't being overclocked or anything like that. They're going to run through stock clocks, and the stock core seems to be adequate enough for that. Even though it is a little bit on the thin side as far as height goes. So I always mount these with the AMD logo facing the left, or facing your right, facing toward the back of the board. What's interesting is with the revised placement of the front panel headers, theoretically I could use that Dell Vostro 430A chassis if I wanted to, but I've already returned that machine back to its stock configuration. I'll probably end up giving it to my buddy for a trade on something special, which will be featured in a later video whenever that time comes. It's not finalized yet, but it's what's planned anyway. It wasn't quite all the way in yet. There it goes. And of course, plug in the cooling fan. You don't want to forget that. I'm going to install our memory. And I'm sure somebody's going to probably gripe in the comments because I'm only using one stick on these. Yeah, these machines are they're using 8 gigs of RAM. And should the client want to upgrade to 16 gigs down the line, which is a possibility, it'll be easier to do so, it'll be cheaper to do so rather. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of these particular RAM slots. So I've heard in feedback in some of the comments on previous videos that there are other motherboard manufacturers out there that use different style DDR4 slots with notches on both things on both sides or on just one side. Okay, so that's in there. Alright, so this board is ready to go. Set it off to the side. We're going to do the second one. And I'm glad this is only 2 machines tonight because, yeah, it won't take as long to get done. Okay, now for the second one. So you got the iron shield, 2 SATA cables, user's manual with utility and driver CD. Yeah, it's funny. I have enough of those CDs, or I had enough of them that I could play huge game frisbee with if I wanted to. Because this is like the first time I have built a whole fleet of machines like this, or upgraded a whole fleet of them with the same board and stuff like that. And there's the little M.2 screw. Got a nice little collection of those too. Okay, so I'm going to move a little faster with this one, since I was a bit more detailed with the previous one. So the previous video that I uploaded of this series, I was using the DXG85V camera to film, and that was not the best experience. Because for one, that camera didn't have a wide-angle lens, and also the audio wasn't as good, and also that camera just had a weird issue with its firmware, to where if you shot a long video and filled the card for a good bit, and then you actually shut the camera off and then turn it back on later on and try to shoot video again, it would just lock up and you'd have to actually disconnect the batteries to get it shut off, and yeah, it was a pain. I'm shooting this video with my recently acquired Sata CG20. Which I think I'm going to be using this camera for quite some time, probably till it dies. Yeah, I think they have changed the design of the packaging for the Ryzen 3 2200G CPU. Okay, got both stickers of this one. Nice. Okay, so I guess we're going to get the most difficult one out of the way. That's the former E-Machines tower. So the reason why I call these machines a bit more difficult to work with is because of the design of the case. See, back in the early 2000s, E-Machines, when they were building systems in the next-gen style chassis, they had custom spec faceplates on their optical drives, and you may see that these are much fatter and stick out further than a standard faceplate for an optical drive. Much further. And to make matters worse, up front in the case, up here you have one hole. But down here you have you have a second hole that's up closer to the front of the case. Well, the idea was that the machine would already have one drive installed in it, and let's say Joe wanted to add a second drive to his computer sometime. Well, it'd be easy. You just snap out the little plate and pop in a second drive, and it would fit just fine in that second hole. But they didn't include the second hole up top, so on these I always have to put a faceplate in the topmost drive bay and stick the single drive in the second bay. And when you're like me and have actually run out of the regular E-Machine style covers, you have to get creative. Now, on the very first build of these, I actually went as far as to swap the faceplates over from the old IDE drives to the new Sata drives. See, for many years, with motherboards still including the at least one parallel ACA interface, I could still use the original E-Machines drives, optical drives, just fine. But ever since motherboards got rid of that interface and went solely to Sata, well, it was either swap in a standard Sata drive with the original, with its factory faceplate, and you have to get creative with the case, or you have to get creative with the drive and actually swap over the faceplate, which is a lot of work. So, anyways, you get the idea. Sorry for rambling on for all that time. Alright, so speaking of optical drives, I'll go ahead and install it. So, this is not the new one for the case, by the way. Yeah, to be honest, I'm about ready to be done with these E-Machine systems. I'm hoping this might be the last one. Yeah, they get annoying after a while. The E-Coopers are a totally different story. The E-Coopers don't have that random proprietary style faceplate design. They use regular drives. So, in the case that you get one with an EIDE drive, swapping in the Sata drive is cakewalk. get it slid in there. You always have to stick it in the first hole, the screw anyway. Now I'm going to do the hard drive. Actually, before we do the hard drive, I need to go ahead and put in this guy. So I've already actually started heating up the hot glue gun, because sometimes I have to use hot glue on these. The reason why I don't have a whole lot of the original E-machine style covers is because back then, E-machines a lot of times was tossing in 2 optical drives in their machines. Around 2002 to 2005, it was pretty common to have a separate DVD-ROM drive alongside a CD-RW drive. I worked with a lot of E-machines that actually had that exact outfit. Okay, so the ultimate end result looks like that. So not too bad. Finally, we can proceed on with the rest of the machine. Okay, drive's in the cage. So we're going to pop it into the tower. Okay, now I'm going to drop in the motherboard. And looky here, this particular case is one of the few that has the standoff that can be easily relocated. So looks like I don't have to snap this one out. I can just move it. I can just relocate it. I wish they were all like that. Here comes the most hated part of building a PC. Installing the I/O shield plate. So let's see how easy or difficult this one is to get in there. Okay, it's in there. We'll drop in a board. One thing you gotta watch out for on these shield plates is around the HDMI connector. Sometimes the little tabs like to go inside the port instead of around it. Just a little FYI or heads up. Okay, motherboard's in. We're going to plug in our cables. Okay, so the memory card ran on the camera right as I was finishing up putting in these cable ties. So this one here is ready to go. Now I'm going to move on to the, what is it, the HP or Compaq system. So the most difficult one is out of the way. The easier one, of course, should be a breeze. Okay, so I believe this is going to be my first time doing a platform upgrade on one of these style computer systems. You know, one of the ones that the from HP and Compaq where the right side of the case opens better than the left side, and your motherboard is actually upside down inside the case. Actually, I like the design. It's pretty neat. It puts your CPU down the bottom of the system where typically your cooler air would be. Yeah, I've always kind of liked these style cases ever since HP started to really use them in like 08 or whatever it was, 2007, 2008, that time period. This is from that time period. This is probably, yeah, this was originally a Windows Vista machine, or Windows Vista machine. The motherboard that you saw in the previous video was in fact the original board. Power supply is not original to this system. The power supply came out of the parts donor system this replaced. Motherboard failed in the Acer machine, so I pulled the power supply and the hard drive out, and probably the optical drive too, unless it was a different one. I don't know for sure, but yeah. Okay, so go ahead and all I gotta do with this one is put in a hard drive and put in the motherboard. We already have a SATA optical drive in there, which is nice. One less thing I have to deal with. So we're going to set this off to the side. We're going to install our hard drive. So I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but we're approaching 1 year since I started doing these platform upgrades. So yeah, there's like 2 or 3 machines that they have now that have been going for about a year since I did the upgrades, and so far everything's been going great with those machines. Haven't had any issues from what I've heard. And they get used for doing graphics for signs and stuff like that. It's a sign making business. They manufacture signs for like real estate, stuff like that, and also they do detailing on. They do signage on vehicles and stuff like that. All sorts of neat stuff. They have custom T-shirts and pretty much anything you can think of. Okay, I'm going to drop that back into the system. Okay, so now I'm going to drop in the motherboard. And to start that out, we will be installing the I/O shield. Okay, so this is one of those cases where I'm going to have to get creative with installing the board. The previous case, you may recall, you could actually unthread that one standoff and move it up. Well, this one, the standoffs are just molded into the sheet metal. So what I have to do instead here, I've had to do this on like a couple of other cases before, is I have to cut out some electrical tape. Yeah, just cover up that unused standoffs. That way the motherboard can rest up against it without shorting out. And with the size of this board, it should just barely make it over to it. So like a couple of layers of this stuff, it should be fine. So I'm doing here because the power supply wire's in the way. So there's that. Now we're going to drop in the board. Okay, board's in there. I'm going to connect up all the cables and stuff. Yes, definitely nice having the front panel header in the spot that it belongs, on the corner. Not way off in this area. Well, this power supply is apparently not going to work because the CPU power connector just doesn't quite reach. Not quite long enough. Well, that's wonderful. So I gotta find another power supply for this thing. Okay, so I'm gonna swap out the power supply for this one. This one should have plenty long enough connectors. Well, let's see if I have an extra serial ATA power adapter. So I think I'm getting low on those things. I'm going to have to order some. What do you know? I have 2 more left. One of them is a single Molex to 2 SATA, and one is a single Molex to single SATA, so that will work fine. Yeah, I found a bulk listing on Amazon for those things. Like $30 for 50 of them. At the order time, that way I had plenty. Because of course I've been reusing these older power supplies that don't have. In some cases they either don't have SATA power connectors at all, or they just have them in an area where a hard drive is at. Let's make sure that the main CPU power connector is long enough, and it should be. Oh yes, no problem. So we'll deal with that in a moment. Okay, got the power supply put in and all the cables except for one. I'm going to do the hard drive SATA cable still. Sneak it in there. But yeah, one thing about this power supply is it has so many cables. It was a pretty good bit of work figuring out how to get those things tied up out of the way. So it ain't perfect, but it's doable. Okay, so I'm reusing the SATA cables from this machine because they're absolutely just perfectly sized for their application. The only thing I hate about them though is you can't stack them in connectors like where you have, like for example, these elbow connectors where you have two on top of each other. You can't. These will absolutely, they just won't fit because they're so bulky. But it is what it is. But yeah, they're like perfect size for this. They're not too long, not too short. Which I'll be having to pull them back. I'll be having to pull the ones out of the hard drive again because I'll be imaging those hard drives here shortly, but have them plugged in for testing purposes. Speaking of testing, we're about ready to go and test these out. This case doesn't have a rear exhaust fan, but this power supply has a 120mm fan in it that does move quite a bit of air. So we'll see how it does with that. And if I think it's necessary, I'll add an extra fan down here. So that concludes putting these things together. We'll go ahead and move on to testing. Okay, now it's time to do some testing. Let's go ahead and test out the rebuilt HP system first. Yeah, this one's a bit awkward because it opens on the right side rather than the left side, so it's placed on the desk a bit different than usual. So let's go ahead and give it a test. And if this is like the previous ones, it takes a moment for the first post to complete. Interesting, you could hear the CPU fan going back forth with its speed a little bit there. Okay, let's have a quick look at the vitals here. Everything seems fine here. And it looks like the revision 4 of this board is, as far as the fan control, is the same, where you cannot choose between controlling via pulse width modulation or controlling by DC power input. Like for example, the motherboard in the mid-tower Lux offers this on 2 of its fan ports. So the power supply fan itself is moving quite a bit of air, but it's doing it very quietly. So this machine should be quiet. Obviously, you can barely hear it. Matter of fact, you can barely hear it over the sound of the whistle blower in the living room. Okay, so let's see here. 8 gigs of RAM, Ryzen 3 2200G. So I think the BIOS on this one, or the UEFI on this one, is about the same as the previous one. Okay, so it looks like this one here's good to go, so we're going to move on to the next one. The date and time is definitely not right. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that corrected. The day is correct, but the month is not. It's March 22nd, not November 22nd. And the time, I think, is right. It is pretty freaking late. Okay. I'll tell you guys, new technicians these days just don't realize how easy they have it made with the way things are these days with computers. Like, for example, UEFI utilities and stuff like that. Huge improvement over what we used to have years ago. Now, there's no operating system on here, so interesting how it just rebooted by itself. Okay, yeah, I was waiting to get that error message saying they couldn't find an operating system. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second one. Okay, now the rebuilt e-machine system is plugged up and ready to test. And you can see it takes on more of the traditional design where the case up is from the left side, not the right side. Okay, let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, 8 gigs of RAM. Seeing the hard drive, I didn't really pay much attention last time when I was looking through it on the other machine. Yeah, it's late. Yeah, this is date and time, same thing. November 22nd, 2018, when it's really March 22nd, 2019. Yeah, because usually Windows will correct the time once you install it. Okay, so this one seems to be good to go. The installed fan isn't too loud. Okay, so now we'll be getting to image these with Windows 10 later on. This mouse is a little funky. And you get the reboot. I swear this one completed its little splash screen a little faster than the other one. That's kind of interesting. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's Compaq MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.